this is gonna be freaking great. Let's do it. All right, and then, if I'm not mistaken, Stephanie was supposed to be in here today. Stephanie's already been through a bunch of our stuff, so she could actually help me teach this. Let me see what we've got in here. Stephanie in here? Yeah, Stephanie's in here. What's up, Steph? Stephanie's doing great. I'm really proud of her. All right, cool. So I'm going to tab over, and again, this is being recorded. Let's just make sure all this works. Give me 1 second. I have to share my screen. And boom. And we're here. All right. So we're going to get started. Can everyone see a big slide? A couple people give me a thumbs up, the real food basic slide, and hear me at the same time. And I just exited out. Okay, cool. All right, we can get back into that. And let's begin. So our first section is probably just little stuff about me, just in case. I know there's probably some people in here that don't know me. I'm not sure, but just to be safe, what we're doing here is we're trying to clarify the confusion and bring you some confidence, especially when it comes to real food. I think the majority of us are probably here for one, if not several reasons. And for most people, it boils down to wanting some body composition changes, having better performance as an athlete, or having better health overall. Maybe you're working with specific symptoms and or conditions. And so in this little mini handout guide that I sent you guys, there's I pulled a lot of this out of our comprehensive food Mastering Real Food for a Lifetime guide, which I think is really awesome. And so on page 12 in this mini guide, I just talk a little bit about how it's never too late to change. And no matter where you are, if you start doing the right thing or something better now, then you're going to be better than you were before. And there's no way to tell how much better, but better is always better than not better. You know, so a lot of people come to me to work with me in my coaching practice, or even in our group progressions and seminars. And, you know, first of all, they think that they're predisposed to something. You know, they have certain things that run in their family, and or maybe they've already had some kind of a diagnosis or a scare or something like that, and they think that their fate is sealed. They have a destiny, and that's not true at all. Because you may have predispositions for a lot of different things, but what really determines whether you experience those things or not is your lifestyle choices. It's your nutrition, your sleep, your stress, getting outside, you know, all the things that we try to teach around health. The reality is that all of us have predispositions for different things, but whether those things get turned on or off is dictated by what we actually decide to do in our daily lives. And your family and relatives may have had, you know, you may have cardiovascular disease or diabetes that runs in your family, or high blood pressure. But the more accurate way of saying that is you have poor eating that runs in your family, and poor choices, and a lot of it's unintentional. You know, so you can completely change the course of your life and the direction of your life just by implementing some of this stuff. We're here because we want to be happy and we want to live a life of fulfillment. When you really think about why the heck are we doing any of this, because we want to be happy. And happiness, as we're acknowledging, comes from health. When you become healthy, and it's hard to explain until you experience it, when you become healthy, everything about your life gets better. Because imagine nothing changing as far as your life situation goes. Like your job doesn't change, your relationship doesn't change, whether you're happy or not. You know, your finances, imagine none of that changes, but you feel really good every day, and you're happy with your body, and you're confident in your clothes. Like, just imagine that change. For most of us, it's a game changer. And all those other things about your life will change because you're going to show up to life completely different. Most people think that it's like fitness and food. That's what you got to do to improve your health and feel better. And what we'd say is it's every single one of our foundations that we teach. They're all very, very important. But I do think nutrition is a really good place to start because it gives you the biggest bang for buck. And the problem, we've mentioned this before in our intro talk, the problem for most of us is just too much information, misinformation, information coming from a million different directions. No one knows what to follow. No one knows what's true. There's a lot of dogmatic, you know, beliefs in this world, especially when it comes to nutrition. So what makes us a little bit different with the SHT is that we subscribe to many things, but we are members of nothing, because all we care about is what works, and we will constantly evolve because of that. We are a way of life for a lifetime. We are not a temporary get into a bikini in 8 weeks, quick fix. This is something that is meant to be something that you can do for the rest of your life. And that's what we want, making this work in a modern lifestyle. We're a combination of ancestral combined with hip and modern. We're always up to date on cutting edge health topics. Part of my responsibility is to follow all the health leaders and hot shots out there in the holistic world. And it's from the heart. I want to help people. That's the reason I'm here. And a little bit about me. Grew up like most kids, happy. My parents divorced when I was in high school. I started developing horrible health habits, not knowing that they were horrible health habits, just eating a lot of processed food and stuff. And then my health deteriorated as time went on. It was very slow. I didn't notice it. I thought I was very healthy. I was working out every day. I was in the gym for a couple of hours doing my pre-workout shakes and post-workout shakes and shakes throughout the day and low fat and chicken and rice and just like all the stuff, right? And then eventually I had my diagnosis and I was high blood pressure, pre-diabetic, 275 pounds. And that was just my wake up call. And so from there, went vegan for 2 years and then found what I would consider to be the ancestral health world. And that completely turned everything around, So over time, I've consistently gotten stronger and better and healthier and leaner, and it just continues to get better every single day. So much that I can have the confidence to dress like a woman once a year during Halloween. So, all right. And then we have great reviews all over the place, so, and that's not to toot our own horns. It's just to say like what we're here to talk about, it works. It's the real deal. It's not theoretical. This is born out of experience. Okay. On the confusion front, we got the vegan documentaries, we got the keto documentaries, we got the carnivore methodologies, so it's like, again, how can you not be confused with all these different options out there to choose from? But then when you learn what you're going to learn today, it makes so much sense what we're supposed to do. So our big purpose together in the SHT is we bring together people who for most of their lives have been lost, confused, or at least a little unsure when it comes to health, and they're seeking clarity and confidence. And we learn health concepts together, we put them into practice, and we support each other throughout the entire process so that we can be very confident and happy and healthy and all the stuff that we're looking for. That's what we're trying to do together. All right, cool. I'm just going to periodically tab over here and see if we got anything going on. No, it looks like we're doing good. So again, remember we have a ask a question button down there and we have the chat box, okay? So I want to first make a really big plug for setting intentions. So as you're embarking on something new, such as something health related, you're trying to change your nutrition. If this applies to you, if you're coming into this to really learn and you want to put this into practice and see some changes, by the way, let's just make sure we're all completely here. I know that we have the ability to tab over and Google and messages and stuff like that. You'll miss out. So let's just try to be here. Let's notice our urge to do something else or talk to someone else or do something else, right? So if you want to see some changes, I think the first step for most of us is to set some intentions. And we talked about this in our mindfulness talk. We have a lot of information coming to us at any given moment, and we have to filter that. Our non-conscious, unconscious, higher self, our spirit, whatever you want to call that, has to filter that so that we can decipher all this stuff coming in at us and make sense of it. And so this is what dictates our perception, is what we let into our experience. And our thoughts and our self-talk are what dictates our filters. And our thoughts and self-talk also are like search criteria, because whatever it is that we're saying to ourselves creates our experience. So if I keep telling myself certain something, this is what is changing my perception of the world. And it's also telling me to look for evidence of that in my environment, meaning that if I keep saying to myself something over and over, I'm going to look for proof of that. So I use an example all the time. It's like, if I'm going into a college course and I talk to someone who took the course and they tell me about the teacher before I go in, and they're like, you know what, that teacher sucks. She's not attentive and just nitpicks, right? If I listen to that and let it in, then my experience when I go into this classroom is going to be a negative experience more than likely. I'll look for evidence of that. I'm like, oh yeah, he's right. She isn't that good, and she is like this, And contrast that if I talk to someone completely different who said, hey, this class is amazing. This teacher is super unique. She's very, nothing but positive things. Then when I go in, chances are, if I choose to believe that's what I look for there too. And so all I'm saying here is it's helpful to have a vision for yourself of what you think health looks like and how you want to feel and how you want to look and how you want to be perceived by others and how you want your life to be as a result of improving your health. And when you do that, then it gives you leverage for making better decisions. When you learn the right information like you will today, it'll help you make better decisions in your decision junctures, And it's not about being perfect with it. It's about just doing your best and being consciously participating in that decision making process. And if you have this vision for yourself, it's like you're programming yourself to have this amazing life, and it helps you make better decisions in any given moment. So, as a bonus, I'll send you out our little morning vision statements that we recommend people use, when they start our food progressions and things. And I think this will resonate with you. I'm not sure if it's useful to spend time like reading through it right now, but I will send that out. Okay. So this vision paragraph is great. And then coming up with your own vision of what it is that you want to accomplish is very, very useful. All right. Cool. Let's just make sure we don't have anything. We're good to go. All right. We're doing good. All right. So first question, something to think about is, what is the purpose of eating food? Why are we eating food? Why are we even eating food? I remember when I first came up with this question in an effort to try to explain like our definition of food. I think most people don't think about this. Like why are we eating? Why are we eating? Why are we eating all the meals that we eat and all the snacks and all this stuff? Like, what is the point? Does anybody have a quick answer in the group, in the chat? Except for Stephanie, because she kind of knows. Energy, Andrew. Yes, energy is one thing for sure. Hunger, okay? Hunger may drive our desire to eat. Fuel our bodies, it's energy, same thing, but I like that. Andrew and Dawn both say fuel our bodies, energy. And then Lori says nutrition. I like that. I like that term, nutrition. All right, cool. So yes, we are all correct here. So let's really understand what's the point, because when we understand what the point is, like it kind of clarifies what it is that we need to do. Okay. So the purpose of food in our world is, number one, we're eating for nutrients. And what we mean by nutrients we're talking about vitamins and minerals and fatty acids and cofactors, coenzymes, like all the things that you need. Like the reason we call those things nutrients is because they're what the body needs. Nutrients facilitate form. So nutrients facilitate creating this body, and nutrients facilitate reactions inside the body. So my thinking, my digestive system, my hormones, they all require nutrients to be created and for these processes to happen. So, and when it comes to the body, just understanding like this body is in constant flux. It's very dynamic. I'm always dying and then replacing myself. Our digestive system replaces itself once every 3 to 7 days. Our entire body replaces itself once every 7 to 10 years. I think it's estimated, but you get the idea. We're always dying and rebuilding. We're always sloughing off skin cells and digestive cells and body parts and then rebuilding it. So where does all that come from? It does not come from the air that we breathe, and it does not come from the water that we drink. The only place that comes from is what we eat. So we literally are what we eat, except we've heard that most of our lives, and I don't think we understand what the heck that really means. That's what I want to uncover today, okay? So we're eating for nutrients. We're eating to build the body and to facilitate what is happening here, okay? And then, yes, we are eating for energy, but in our world, we want to create energy in a specific way. We call it metabolic flexibility and ideally fat burning. That's our two main focuses. We're eating food to build this body, to contribute to this body, and we're eating food for energy. I don't think there's anything else outside of that we're eating food for. That's the purpose of food, okay? So let's talk really quick about nutrients. Nutrients contribute to the structure, to the form, and the function of the body. And the nutrients that we need, well, we already know because we've dissected the body and we're constantly learning, we're dissecting and getting more reductionist with it. But in general, we kind of understand what it is that we need because number one, we've analyzed everything that we're made of and we understand what this is made of. And we also have analyzed things like hormones and the precursors to hormones and what it takes to create all these different things, right? This is why we call these nutrients vitamins and minerals and proteins and amino acids and fatty acids and cofactors. And I would even say there's a life force and vitality associated with some of the stuff that we eat. So when I say the body is made of nutrients, just think about what is the body made of? Again, we're just analyzing what this body is made of: protein, amino acids, connective tissue, bone, fatty acids, vitamins, minerals. We can think macro: skin, hair, nails, organs. We can think micro, which is the nutrients, but it's really just thinking, what is this body made of? This is what the body needs. Whatever it's made of is what it needs. I think that's a kind of common sense statement. So then the question is, what are the best sources of nutrients? Where can we get food from? We have a very flexible and adaptive digestive system. The question is, what is optimal? Because we can eat a lot of different things. So I'm gonna just get a few guesses in here. What are the possibilities of things that we can eat? Just give me a few answers here in the chat. What are the potential things that we can eat? Veggies, yeah. I would group veggies in, we can call that real food, right? What else? Meats, yep. Whole grains, yep. All that would be, I would say, real food-ish type stuff, right? Fresh, real food. What else can we eat? Chocolate. It's definitely one of our favorites. Okay. Fruit, yep. I love that. Fruit's in there too. Cool. All right. Now we're all mentioning like great stuff. Okay. This is all like real food based. So there's also other things. Let's just think about, what do we see people out there consuming? Okay. The possible places that we can get our nutrition from would be what I would consider real food. The things that we all just mentioned, regardless of what your definition of real food is, we can all agree that real food is not processed food. So it would be meats, vegetables, beans, grains, fruit, starch, all that kind of stuff, right? Then we have what might be considered processed food, right? Now there's different degrees of quality of processed food, but processed food is processed food. I think we have what we call engineered health food, stuff that's marketed to us to be healthy, but it's still processed food. And then we have supplements. Okay. That's a kind of broad way of looking at it. Like what can we eat? This is what we can eat. I'm not going to eat this table. I'm not going to eat some drywall. I'm not going to eat the concrete. This is about everything. I think it includes almost everything. If you can think of something else, let me know and I'll throw it in my talk for future reference. So now out of those, we would say, what's the best thing of all these things? I think most of us would agree that real food, probably, maybe because it's cleaner. Some of us might have thought, like I did for most of my life, that engineered health food, whey protein powder and bars and shakes and supplements and all that stuff, science knows better than Mother Nature. So there may be a little bit of that in there, some thinking around that. I think most of us would probably agree that processed food is not good for us. I don't know that many of us know why. So we say real food because real food gives us the nutrients that we need. It gives us nutrient synergy, which means that the nutrients, when I eat something like an orange, it's different from consuming vitamin C, because an orange doesn't just have vitamin C. It has all these other things packaged with this food that I've eaten that my body understands, versus, and I'm not saying it's bad to take vitamin C. I mean, we take vitamin C sometimes, but it's different when you're eating a real food because you've got nutrient synergy. All these things work together in a way the body understands. We've also got food synergy, which means that if I'm eating a balance of meats and vegetables and whatever I believe in is real food, then I'm getting it. They work synergistically together versus anything working by itself. By definition, real food is going to have way less toxins than processed food. And with real food, we get a perishability. We have a temporary life force that we can take advantage of. So again, we have a very flexible and adaptive digestive system. The question is, what is optimal? If we can, let's just agree for argument's sake that real food is the first place for us to look. Now within this realm of real food, what is optimal? Is what we want to try to figure out. So let's see if we got any questions over here. Cool, we're doing good. You should start this seminar with everyone taking a picture of their lunch. Yes, actually you can take a picture right now. Is there a way to put a picture in here? Let's see. Ask a question, create a poll, invite on screen. No, dang it, you can't do a picture. That would be really interesting to so as a special gift, I've made a secret group inside of our community that, and I've given you guys a free trial into it. So if you guys get in there, you can share pictures and stuff in there. It's pretty cool. So I think that's a great idea though, Carrie. All right, so let's keep going. I'm gonna try to keep this to an hour. Whew, it's gonna be hard though. All right. So Now, let's talk about what are we designed to eat as human beings. So I have a handout that is a summary of the work of Dr. Weston Price. Dr. Weston Price was a dentist that traveled the world in the 20th century, early 20th century, so 1900s. And he had a dental practice. And in his dental practice, he noticed people going through his dental practice that kept getting unhealthier. He called it degenerating. It looked like humans were degenerating. They were having more cavities, they were having more health issues. And this got worse and worse and worse with each generation. And so he hypothesized it has to be our modern lifestyle and the foods that we're eating. So him and his wife took his retirement money, and in the 1920s and 30s, they traveled the world looking for what he called primitive populations that were still on a somewhat ancestral diet, living off the land. And then he would try to figure out what it is they ate and what made them so healthy. And he visited 14 different isolated districts throughout the world, all the way from the polar ice caps, the South Pacific Islands, to Europe, to Africa, Australia. And so, there's some commonalities when he visited all these really healthy populations. There's some commonalities. And even though he'd be the first to say everyone ate different, what he did notice is there's common themes, right? The first one is that, number one, there's a great variety of things that you can eat to be healthy. And there's certain laws he considered to be unflexible, and that was that you had to get certain nutrients from animal sources, certain nutrients that don't exist in plants. All right. So one example is true vitamin A. Vitamin A, retinol, only exists in animal foods. Now, someone may say, well, carrots have a lot of vitamin A. Well, carrots have a lot of beta carotene, which can be converted into vitamin A, but it's not true vitamin A. So, and most humans don't make that conversion very well. We don't convert very well like some other animals do. So there's just certain nutrients he felt like were absolutely crucial to get in animal sources. And he also said that foods had to be prepared properly. So if I'm going to do grains, if I'm going to do beans, I got to know how to soak them overnight and add an acidic medium and maybe ferment it a little bit, because if I don't, it's going to make me sick. So I have to have this awareness of how to prepare food. And his greatest disappointment was he never found a vegan culture that was healthy, because he was convinced this was the time that America started the low fat kick and saying saturated fat was bad. So he went out thinking, oh, it's got to be animal foods that are causing the problem. And he actually found the opposite. He found populations that tried to commit to vegan were nutritionally deficient and had fertility issues over time. So let's talk a little bit about ancestral wisdom. And I have a lot of references, resources, books that you can dig into to get more granular on this. But so the first piece of this is, if you look back from an evolutionary perspective, about 2.5 million years ago, this is what made humans human, right? We diverged from other primates, and we had this exponential increase in brain size. And that also correlated to a shrinking of our digestive system. So something happened 2.5 million years ago that all of a sudden, exponentially, we started to develop in a different way: bigger brains, more intelligence, smaller digestive system. And this directly correlated with evidence in the fossil record from archaeologists and anthropologists of humans learning how to consume animal foods. And so we started out as scavengers of other predators. And then over time, we learned how to develop tools and arrows and spears. And we learned how to become top level predators. So if we look at the fossil record, like I said, there's dig sites all over the world that show evidence of stone tools and carcasses and animal carcasses, and also evidence of plant matter. And so it's obvious. You can ask any archaeologist, any anthropologist, what did humans eat before modern times? And they would say they ate animals and plants depending on where they lived. And if we look at traditional human populations, we'd see a very similar story. And when I say traditional, like for the past couple hundred years, we've studied all kinds of different populations all over the world. And if they had superior health markers, we would see that they ate off the land. They ate animals and plants, and it varied by geographical location and seasonality. And if we look at the historical records from explorers that came over to the Americas from Europe and encountered these new populations, they would always say, hey, they're really fit and healthy and lean and free of dental decay and free of disease. And they are all eating animals and plants. And then Price found the same thing. Traveled the world. The commonality was they all ate animals and plants, depending on where they lived. And then if we look at modern hunter-gatherer populations, so a hunter-gatherer population is a population that lives off the land. They hunt their food, they hunt animals, and then they gather plants and animals. They gather things to eat. And so when there's 229 tribes that have been studied over the years, of those 229 tribes, when the food is analyzed, assessed, we see 69% from a caloric value, 69% animal foods on average, 31% plant foods. And these are populations with extremely good health markers. No evidence of cardiovascular disease or chronic degenerative disease. So now some of these populations were almost completely carnivorous. Actually, some were completely carnivorous. Some of them were very, very heavy in plants, but on average, most of them consumed a pretty good balance of animals to plants, right? So, I mean, just saying that right there, that should make a lot of sense, right? Our ancestors, the fossil record, traditional populations, the work of price here, it's like it boils down to real food. But I have to make this argument for animal foods because I'm standing up for being an advocate for animal foods because so many of us have been so brainwashed to think that animal foods, for some weird reason, are bad for us, even though we have co-evolved eating animal foods our entire existence. Humans are omnivores. We are designed to eat minimally processed animals, plants, and fats, and it varies by geographical location. Some were documented as completely carnivorous, right? So again, we have this flexible adaptive digestive system. So what's optimal with all this stuff? If we look into the science, we can see that, you know, the science supports a lot of methodologies. If I take someone in an experiment going from eating a standard American diet to going vegan, any vegan and vegan book and vegan doctor and vegan practitioner can say with confidence, hey, I make people better. And it's true. But is it because they're excluding animal foods or is it because they're excluding all the processed food? We say it's because they're excluding processed food. They're making a lot of beneficial changes to their diet. And we could say the same thing about someone that goes paleo. We could say the same thing about someone that goes ketogenic or low carb. Is it really because they're eliminating carbs? Or is it because they're eliminating processed food carbs and processed food in general? And if those people that went keto went real food carb, they probably see the same results. I mean, I do this all the time. I've done keto and worked with keto and taught keto. It's not the keto part of it. It's the real food part of it. And same thing with people that go carnivore. If someone goes carnivore or animal-based from processed food, is it because they're eliminating plants? I mean, maybe there's some problems in there, but the bottom line is because they're eating real food, period. So the common theme is real food, right? So again, just trying to figure out what's the best thing for us to consume. All right, so we've already agreed real food is the best thing to consume. Now, what within real food is the best thing to consume? We've already said plants and animals. We've looked at the work of all these different people. So let me just spend a moment here and explain this. So we are omnivores. We have this very flexible digestive system. We evolved eating animal foods. Animal foods are the thing that, and animal foods, because of their nutrient density and caloric density, are the things that facilitated the expansion of our brain and the changing of our digestive system. That is not argued anymore in anthropology and archaeology. Animal foods, because think about it. If I'm a gorilla or if I'm a great ape and I'm eating mostly leaves throughout the day, I'm eating leaves all day long. Why? Because I have to eat a lot of leaves to get nutrition because as a primate, I have a fermentation system in my digestive system. I take all this leaves and I pull it together and I ferment it. And out of that fermentation, I can get some short chain fatty acids and some vitamins and nutrients that I need. But what happened is when humans learned how to go straight to the source by eating an animal, then all of a sudden I bypass that fermentation process and I get the nutrients exactly as I need it. So now we have this system that is, if I want vitamin A, I need to consume vitamin A. If I want muscle, I need to consume muscle. Why? Because I'm built of muscle. What's the best thing for me to eat to give my muscle? Muscle. Because that's exactly what my muscle needs to build muscle. So our digestive system has evolved and then it kind of stopped evolving at some point and it's in this middle stage of hybrid. We can eat anything. I mean, look at what a lot of people eat out there today. Cheetos and cereal and sodas, and they survive. This body can pull nutrients from processed food, but is that optimal? Obviously not. This body can get nutrients from plants, from animals. It's very flexible, but what's most beneficial is just understanding that the best things for me to consume are the things that contain the things that my body needs, period. And that makes a big argument for animal foods. It makes a good argument for clean plant foods that don't have anti-nutrients and toxins. We also do really well on direct energy assimilation, meaning that if I want to use sugar or glucose for energy, I consume sugar or glucose. If I want to use fat for energy, I consume fat for energy. So I hope this isn't too much over our heads. The final thing I want to say about our digestive system is we started cooking and controlling fire about 1 million years ago, estimated. And so cooking also played a big role in the change of our digestive system, because not only did we have access to these really nutrient calorically dense foods that we now can digest, but cooking pre-digest foods. Have you ever tried to eat a raw steak? I mean, it's almost impossible. You chew it, you have to chew it for hours, right? But as soon as I cook it, all of a sudden it becomes easy to digest. Same thing with vegetables. So cooking played a big role in that. Okay. So if I combine all of that, if I think about ancestral wisdom, the fossil record, traditional populations, historical records, the work of Price that traveled the world, if I understand human digestive system and anatomy and physiology and how, we're geared for direct nutrient assimilation. If I go to my doctor and I am low in magnesium, my doctor says take magnesium. Well, I could say the same thing. If I'm low in muscle mass, I need to consume muscle. And then if we look at all the popular methodologies out there, we'd see that they're all very successful. If we look at the SHT, we've been doing this for 10 years now, and we have a lot of experience. And so if we boil all that down into something summarizable, the body is made of nutrients. The body is not made of the things that we recommend people avoid. It's a simplistic way of looking at things, but that's the deal. All right. So I'm going to tab over, see if we got any questions, comments, or snide remarks. Made the difference in human evolution. Yeah, that's one of them. Yes, Howard, absolutely. Cooking, I read a really great anthropological compilation on the control of fire and how it impacted us as humans. And it's freaking probably one of my favorite books of all time. I think it's called Catching Fire. And after that book, I was convinced that the majority of the foods I consume are going to be cooked unless they're super soft to begin with. So, all right. How are we doing? Are we doing okay? Thumbs up. Is it interesting? Now we're going to get into what it is. Somebody's got to give me a thumbs up or else I get my feelings hurt. Cool. Thank you, Don. So the bottom line is we just made an argument for real food, right? We made an argument for real food because real food contains the things that the body needs, right? Let's keep going, because now we're going to talk about our definition of real food. Where are we at? All right, so our definition of real food, again, this is in the handouts. Remember, we talked about what is the purpose of eating real food. The reason that we are eating food is to give the body nutrients, and we want to create energy in a certain way. So let's start with the nutrient piece. On page 24 in your handout, we have our definition of real food. This is a nutrient-based way of eating, and you'll notice we have a big plate. And this big plate is the majority of what our meals should look like. All right, very clean, very simple, and very powerful, because this is a nutrient-based way of eating. Animal foods are number one. That does not mean that animal foods have to be the most of what you eat. It means that they need to be a priority because of their importance. Because I am an animal. When I eat an animal, I give this animal what I need to make this animal. If I eat something that resembles me, like a steak, that steak has just about everything that I need to make me. So in the animal foods realm, we say they need to be a priority. They don't have to be the majority. So in the animal foods realm, we'd say that naturally raised meat and pork and shellfish and chicken and poultry and organ meats and eggs, anything, all that stuff is great. And what's great about our way of doing things is you can eat whatever you feel comfortable with. You're not mandated to eat anything. So some people, they do a little bit of chicken, eggs, and fish, and they do a lot of vegetables. That's great. Some people do a lot of meat, a lot of animal foods, a little bit of vegetables and greens and starches and fruits and stuff like that. So there's no right or wrong, except you just have to experiment to see what works for you. And you have to constantly learn so that you can facilitate experiments or join our community or come to our talks, because that's what we're doing together, is we're facilitating experiments for each other. All right. If you got questions on the animal foods piece, please just put it in the question box. The second food group important is traditional fats. So traditional fats include, and when I say traditional, I mean traditional. Traditional fats are healthful fats, things that we've been consuming for a very long time. Our number one traditional fat is going to be real butter. I'd say that 95% of what we do in our home is butter-based, unless we use a salad dressing for some salad. Ghee is a great option if you don't tolerate butter. There's very few people I've met that can't tolerate butter, but ghee is clarified butter, Coconut oil, olive oil, animal fats are great too. But the using the right fats is crucial, because the alternative to this is corn oil, soybean oil, canola oil, safflower oil, rice bran oil, all the oils that are populating all of our restaurants, all of our food industry. These are the things that are making us sick. So one of the best things that you can do is swap out your toxic oils for real traditional fats. If you've got, I can't believe it's not butter at home, or Benecol, or one of those fake butters, Smart Balance, then throw it out and use real butter and swap out your fats for traditional fats, because those things are extremely toxic. I could talk for hours about it. And then finally, vegetables and greens. Like, love vegetables and greens. I think that the heartier the vegetable, because of what we said about cooking, the heartier, meaning the harder and the tougher the vegetable, the better it is going to be cooked, as far as like the better for your digestion and the better you're going to get the nutrients out of it. So if I eat like a raw broccoli stalk, I'm not going to get much of that. It's going to pass through me, but if I cook it in some butter or steam it and put some butter on it, some salt and pepper, some cheese or something, then it tastes really good and I'm getting the nutrients out of it, okay? So again, the harder the vegetable, the more we recommend cooking. The softer, the more likely it is that you can eat it like a salad or something like that, right? Now we also have these smaller plates, which the smaller size represents how much we want to consume, estimated, right? So we have our carbohydrates. To us, carbohydrates are starchy things like sweet potatoes and yams and rice and potatoes and ancestral tubers, and then fruits of any kind. So these are our carbs, meaning they have glucose and sugar and starch. And then we also have this smaller plate of full fat dairy, because we love dairy. If you tolerate dairy, we love full fat cheese. We love heavy cream in our coffee. We love cream cheese and sour creams and things like that. All right. And I know dairy is a tolerance thing for a lot of people, but so are freaking tomatoes and nightshades and oxalates. And I mean, you name it, So again, that's our definition of real food. I'm going to tab over and see if we have any questions just yet. No questions yet. All right, cool. You guys are doing great. Thoughts on being vegan? Let's address that towards the end, okay? I have some really, really good thoughts. I work with vegans all the time. I have what I call how to be a smart vegan protocol. I'll tell you my personal opinion, said with a lot of compassion. Then we'll talk about, there's options if you want to come work with me. Should you more meat or fish? Carrie asked, so if y'all don't mind, let's put these questions in the ask a question thing so that we can have a running list of questions. So Howard, if you could put that Beyond Meat question in there. Carrie, if you could put that meat or fish question in there. And then Alex, if you could put that one about being vegan. And we will address each one of them, okay? I want to get through the bulk of this. So wherever you stand on this, wherever your thoughts are, your feelings about, yeah, olive oil is in there. I think it better be in there, shoot. Yeah, oh yeah. So whatever your feelings are about this, all right, don't tune out because you may think different, all right? Because I'm telling you, I've been there, done that. I was vegan for 2 years, all right? This is said with a lot of compassion and heart. Let's get through the rest of this and then we'll address all these questions in there, okay? I care about you guys. We're gonna make it happen. All right, let's get back to this. All right, so that's our definition of real food. Now let's talk about quickly the things to avoid. Things to avoid are toxins, toxicants, technically called toxicants. The reason that we call toxins toxins is because they damage cells, tissues, organs, and systems. That damage has to be repaired. They inhibit the assimilation and usage of nutrients, and they deplete nutrients because the detoxification process requires that we bind toxins to nutrients to excrete them out of the body. So basically, the reason toxins are so problematic is because if I'm eating food for nutrients to build this body, toxins are the opposite of nutrients because they deplete the body or they disrupt the body's ability to use nutrients, okay? So we have on pages 28 and 29 our foods to avoid. I'm going to go through these really quick. Excess sugar, all we're saying is soda pops and Gatorade and stuff like that are not the best thing in the world. If you're eating sugar from real food like fruit and stuff and honey, totally fine. We recommend avoiding all the artificial sweeteners. They're poisonous, they're toxic. We recommend avoiding processed food in general, right? Now we have approved processed food made with good ingredients, which we'll touch on. We recommend avoiding grains, right? So, and especially the gluten-containing grains like wheat, spelt, rye, and barley. Brown rice, corn, and oats are what I call suspect. I don't think they're worth anything. I don't think it's something you need to make a point to consume, but if you're going to, you have to do certain things with them, okay? Now, the reason we avoid grains is because they're anti-nutrients. Grains are probably the most prevalent food in the American food system. Everyone's unhealthy. Most people are eating grains left and right. Grains are bread, pastas, pastries, whole grain bread, pasta, pastries, whole grain cereals, All their different derivatives. Most processed food have wheat, corn, and soy in it. And then we avoid toxic fats and oils. We've already mentioned it. All the fake butters and spreads, canola, corn, soybean, vegetable, grapeseed, safflower, rice bran oil. We recommend avoiding sunflower oil too, but there's a few caveats there. If you're going to do dairy, we recommend avoiding low quality, manipulated, low fat dairy. We want full fat dairy because that's where all the benefits are. And then we avoid GMOs to the best of our abilities. Okay, cool. And let's just tab over here. And yeah, all right, we got 5 questions in there now. We'll make sure we come back to this. What do you think about plant-based protein? Boom, boom, boom. Wheat or white? Great question. Okay. We're going to come back to all. I think it's best to come back to the questions at the ends just to make sure that we get through this stuff because I know you guys have a work day. All right, now, a really good question. Stephanie, you can't answer. Where does the body get energy from? Pop it in the chat. Where do we get energy from? So we're talking about eating food for number 1, nutrients, and number 2, we're eating to create energy in a certain way. Where do we get energy from when it comes to food? Where's my window? Anybody? Where do we get energy from? Anyone? Anyone? Mindfulness? Maybe a little bit. What else? What are the things that give the body energy? Sleep recuperates. Yes, I like that, Tammy. Food-wise, what do we get energy from? What do we create energy from? Carbs. Yes, Alex, carbs are one. Carbohydrates. And fats, Carrie. Yes. Caffeine can be a stimulant. Yes. Okay, cool. Carbs and fats. All right, we're getting it. We're getting it. So let's go over this. The body can create energy from carbohydrates. Now, to us, carbohydrates are dominant sources of starch and sugar. So we've already covered what we consider to be our definition of food. So in the context of our definition of food, carbs are the sweet potatoes, the rice, the fruits, the honey. These are the things that are starchy and sugary because those get broken down and turned into glucose. Glucose is something that every cell in the body can use, all right? So you've probably heard the term glucose, blood sugar. Glucose is from carbs, right? Real food carbs, right? So that's one place that we can get energy from. Now, some people may say, what about protein? We can break down protein and convert it into energy, but it gets broken down into glucose through a process called gluconeogenesis. So we're back to carbs. So even when we use protein for energy, we break it down and turn it into glucose or carbs. The other place we can get energy from is fat, all right? Fat from foods, fat from plant-based foods, animal-based foods. Fat in general is great for the body to use for energy. And one of our goals when we eat in the SHT is to train the body how to use fat for fuel and to be metabolically flexible. Why is that so important? Because it is less damaging for the body over the long term for health reasons. It's only in recent, since the modern industrial world that we've had such a dependence on carbohydrates for energy, whereas fat for energy is the way that our ancestors have lived for hundreds of thousands, if not millions of years. Fat is preferred because it's cleaner burning, it's less damaging, it's better for health over time, and it gives us flexibility, meaning that if I can use fat for fuel and carbs for fuel, because we always know how to use carbs for fuel, then now I can bounce back and forth between these 2 different energy sources depending on what's available. Now, something important to understand is that carbs are the opposite of fat for fuel. So that means that if I'm trying to get my body to learn how to use fat, every time I have carbs, I'm not using fat. I'm teaching my body how to use sugar for fuel, and my body already knows how to use sugar. And we're not saying don't eat sugar, don't eat carbs. We're not saying that. We're just saying we have to be aware that every time I have sugar, I'm not using fat for fuel. So we have to have some rules around that. All right, so page 30, we've got a little bit of a summary of all this stuff. So we've got this smaller plate of carbs, our starches and sugars, our fruits, and you'll see this little measuring cup, 3/4 of a cup. So the way that we mitigate the balance of using both sugar and fat for fuel is we just control the amounts of carbohydrates. So we just don't want to eat a lot of carbohydrates. We'd say a maximum of 3/4 of a cup of starch, 3/4 of a cup of fruit per day is about the sweet spot. You can also think like a handful, a fistful, right? So about this much of potatoes or rice every day and about this much of fruit every day. And that's a pretty decent amount of carbohydrates if you're eating other real foods, okay? So our strategy with carbs is we want to make sure that carbs come from real food sources. So again, this is our starches and our fruits and honey, and then some approved things like some dark chocolates and stuff. And then we also want to make sure that those carbs are in smaller amounts because we're trying to get the body to learn how to use fat for fuel. And if we have too many carbs, then we overpower the body's ability to use fat for fuel. Okay. Very, very simplistic way of looking at things, but it works. I'm telling you right now. All right. Now, another key concept around this energy thing is, what is the purpose of stored body fat? I want someone to answer, and it can't be Stephanie. Yes, protein, Lori, but we already said that gets broken down into glucose. What is the purpose of stored body fat? Anybody? I hope y'all can stick around a little bit after one, because I think it's going to get, we could go just a little bit answering questions. Purpose of stored body fat. Energy for later. Anybody else? Insulation. A lot of people say insulation, Howard. Good answer. All right, cool. So the purpose of stored body fat, let's get back to my slides. Where the heck is it at? The purpose of stored body fat is stored energy for when we're not eating. So you're right. The purpose of body fat is energy for when we're not eating. It is an evolutionary adaptation to starvation. So before we had modernization and modern grocery stores and agriculture, when we were hunters and gatherers living off the land, we would go through feast and famine. We would have a hunt, we would have a kill, everybody would eat, and then we'd go some period of time without some food, right? When you study modern hunter-gatherer populations, usually at the most they'd go some days without food. It's rare that they would go as far as like weeks, but all of us have enough fat on our body to last us a pretty significant period of time. But the purpose of fat is to sustain us in between meals, is to sustain us so that we're not dependent upon eating all the time. Because think about that from an evolutionary perspective. Humans would not be who they are today if they had to eat every 2 or 3 hours like we're told to do today. So if body fat is stored energy for when we're not eating, what is one thing that we can do to get the body to learn how to use body fat for fuel? Anybody? What is one thing that I can do to train my body? If I'm saying my body fat is energy for later, yes, Howard, if I'm saying that my body fat is energy for when we're not eating, then one way that I can get my body to use body fat is to not eat, because that's the purpose of it. It is there for when we're not eating. Now, I'm not saying you have to starve yourself. I'm not saying that you have to fast. What I'm saying is that we have to have periods of space, and we can't be grazing all day long, which is what most modern nutrition methodologies are going to recommend you do. So let's get back to here. So we have to go through periods of not eating. And so now if we tie this all together, again, this is on page 31 in the handouts I gave you, we're eating for nutrients. All right. This means the majority of our meals need to be animal foods using the right kind of fats, vegetables and greens, and maybe a little bit of dairy if you tolerate it. That's a nutrient-based way of eating right there. All right. We're eating in a way that trains the body how to use fat for fuel, which means that we have traditional fats with our meals and we have smaller amounts of the real food carbohydrates. We acknowledge and understand that body fat is stored energy for when we're not eating, and therefore we need space in between meals. I recommend most people start out with 3 meals per day with no snacking in between those 3 main meals. And if you feel an urge to, force yourself not to. Breakfast, lunch, dinner is plenty of frequency of food for most people, okay? And then we just want to make sure that we have smaller amounts of carbohydrates, okay? Now, as a bonus in this guide, I'm sharing with you some example meals and meal plans. I have an example day, example meal ideas. I've got some snack ideas and how to make coffee. So you've got a lot of great stuff in there. All right. Now, on page 36 and 37, we talk a little bit about what we call SHT process or SHT approved foods, which is kind of our way of saying processed foods, but made with better ingredients. All right. So one of the main things we're trying to do as we first come into real food is just at least choose things made with better ingredients and avoid the toxic oils and the preservatives and all the things that we're trying to avoid, right? So that means that if I want a potato chip, instead of Lay's potato chips, which is made with toxic, crappy oils and really low quality ingredients, I can find a healthier potato chip like Jackson's Honest cooked in coconut oil. Instead of on the border corn tortilla chips cooked in soybean oil, I can get Siete tortilla chips that are cassava based cooked in avocado oil. Instead of Haagen-Dazs ice cream that probably has some crappy ingredients in it, I can get Strauss ice cream, which is made with wholesome ingredients. So a big part of what we're doing is just trying to move away from junk food and crap food and toxic ingredients to things made with better ingredients. And if we do that, that's going to have a world of good on our health. So I have some suggestions in there, some ingredients to look for. At a minimum, we're moving away from processed food to better food. And ultimately, we want to make the majority of what we eat real food. Okay. Now, on page 25 in this little mini handout I sent you, we have things that we can use to make this work in a modern lifestyle. So remember I said, hey, we're ancestral and hip. We're going to take advantage of the modern world, right? So we've got condiments, we can do ketchups and sauces and mustards and mayonnaise. They just have to be made with good ingredients. We can do sweeteners. You know, our top sweetener is going to be honey, but you can do maple syrup and some of the sugar alcohols. We've got approved flours. We're not doing wheat flour because it's gluten-based, but we are doing things like almond and coconut and cassava and tapioca. A lot of us use those pretty regularly. And we've got a lot of different hydration options. So there's a lot of things that we can do to make this work. If I'm out and about and I'm trying to make this work in a modern lifestyle, a lot of people, yeah, but I eat out a lot and, you know, I just don't have the time to cook or whatever. Well, first of all, you need to find the time to cook because it's for your health and you're going to love it. But if you're out and about, you can just choose real food ingredients. I have no problem eating In-N-Out, protein style, meat wrapped in lettuce with some tomato and a little bit of mustard or something like that, right? That's all real food ingredients. No one's saying that it's the best quality, but I don't think that matters as much as just choosing the right thing. Having an In-N-Out protein style burger is better than eating a sandwich or better than eating a Hot Pocket. And actually, you'll feel really good from it. And everything that you think you would have to give up, the reality is that there's probably a version of it that is SHTified, shitified, made with good ingredients. We have tortillas that you can buy in the store made with good ingredients. We have a homemade tortilla recipe that you can make that is really easy. There's gluten-free pizzas that are made with good ingredients. Now, by the way, gluten-free is not a get out of jail free card. Even within gluten-free, they use canola oil and soybean oil. So you have to really scrutinize the ingredients, but there's plenty of places that have really good gluten-free crusts like Blaze, down to Marco's, even Domino's checks out. Sushi, perfect, rice and fish, you know, as long as you're not doing all the tempura and all that stuff. We got potato chips, we got dipping chips, we got desserts. So there's nothing that you're really lacking for when you transition to a real food way of eating. It's just, again, trying to choose things made with better ingredients. And inside your guide on page 47, we have this page of, we call it Brutally Simple Cooking, How to Assemble Meals. It's like a meal matrix, okay? I have a YouTube channel, I've got an Instagram channel, and I have a playlist called Brutally Simple Cooking. I'm trying to keep things super, super simple and easy, and because I don't like complications. So that's a really good resource, all right? So if we're paying attention to this and we want to try to do this for a little bit, this would be the goals for a little bit. And that would be basically eat within this definition of food. At a minimum, always choose things made with better ingredients and scrutinize labels. Try 3 meals per day with no snacking in between because you want to train your body how to use fat for fuel in the space in between your meals. And then keep your carbs to a small amount. Not saying don't eat carbs. We're not saying go low carb. Just keep your carbs to a smaller amount, okay? Big picture, what we're trying to do here is eat real food, be strategic with carbohydrates, and allow space and periods of not eating. That's what we're trying to do, big picture. We're eating for nutrients, and we're eating in a way that trains the body how to use fat for fuel, all right? Now, in that guide, we also have a bunch of QR codes. I have a code. The second one there is joining our community with an Ignite special for free. You get a free 1-week trial into the community, and I want to tab over and show y'all what that looks like real quick. It is called Superhumans United, and then I will come back and answer all our questions, and we can chat for as long as we got. So we got, oh, nice, 9 questions. We still got everybody in here. All right, so if y'all just bear with me, I am going to go over to our community, which is Superhumans United. And if you use the secret link or the QR code that we send out, then you get a free 1-week trial to test it out. And this is a shameless plug, but we love this place, okay? Inside Superhumans United, we own this, so it feels like Facebook. You have the ability as a member to post questions, to post pictures, videos, share links, do attachments. You can even ask these really cool questions like multiple choice and hot or cold posts and percentages and things like that. You can create really in-depth articles. Mindy the other day shared her chocolate date coconut bar recipe, which was freaking phenomenal. She did it at a potluck and it was awesome. All right, so when you scroll through here, you'll see, like, I just did a post the other day on cholesterol because that always comes up. So we have just an awesome amount of info. We have these questions and polls that we use to get people engaged most days, maybe every other day. And then also what's cool about this is we house all of our courses in here. So if you come over here to the left and on your phone, there's an application and we go to courses, then you'll see that we have everything that we do throughout the year. We record it and we put it into this community. We have a welcome course, which shows you how to use it. We have our 8-week Mastering Real Food for a Lifetime progression, which Stephanie was just a part of. We have our setting intentions. We have immune system vitality, real food basics, which is kind of what we went through today, mindfulness, sleep. I mean, you name it. And anything that we do throughout the year, we're putting it into this community. We have an amazing recipe resource. If we come over here to topics, we've got all the posts by topic, but then we come into recipes and we've got freaking recipes beyond belief. And what's cool is any post in here, you can have a conversation. So when I click on a recipe or an article, I can come down and I can have a comment. And so the conversation stays with that post or that recipe or that article or that event or whatever it is. And so we're really building an amazing community here. Okay. So that is all. If you take advantage of that QR code or use that bit.ly link there, you'll get a free week to get in there, create your profile, take advantage of as much stuff as you want. You can cancel before the week's out. And if you have any problems with it whatsoever, you can text me or call me or email me. Okay. So the guide, I feel like, I give you guys a lot, man. This is a ton of stuff. I'll also include a shopping list when I send that stuff out. And so now I'm going to stop the video here and we're going to see if we can just spend the rest of this time answering questions. Okay. No, not in broadcast. We're closing that. There we go. Cool. All right. Now let's get into the questions. We'll try to address all these. Thoughts on being vegan. All right, let's start with that. So the question is, what is optimal? Okay, it's not what is better, because we already know that vegan is better than processed food. Again, I was vegan for 2 years. My first 6 months, I lost a ton of weight. I felt better. I was like, okay, this is great. This is awesome. And then about 16 months into it, 18 months into it, I started to lose a lot of muscle mass. I had horrible digestive issues, and I realized something was off. And that is when I started to include back in animal foods, but I learned about the stuff that we're talking about here today. So I think vegan is better than processed food. I don't think vegan is optimal, because I truly believe that we need to make animal foods a priority because of their nutritional value. And if you exclude animal foods, then what are your options? Like, that's why most people eat a lot of carbohydrates and a lot of pastas and breads and canola oil and soybean oil. Animal foods we have co-evolved with for the majority of our existence. They are extremely helpful. And there's so many different rabbit holes to go down there. For past 50 or 60 years, saturated fat and cholesterol have been blamed for our disease in America, right? And then recently, it's come, most people are starting to understand, like, okay, maybe saturated fat and cholesterol aren't so bad for us. Maybe butter's okay for us, right? Because there's so much proof, experientially, anecdotal, and in the literature now showing that it never was a problem for us. But now the blame is shifted over to meat. And for some reason, meat causes cancer and all this other stuff and our diseases. But if I go to the grocery store and I look at what's in people's shopping carts, you're telling me that these people are unhealthy because of meat and butter and eggs? When I look at their shopping carts and there's barely any meat or butter or eggs in there, it's all bread and fat-free milk and cereal and pastries and like horrific stuff. But meat somehow gets the blame. So I think the reason most people go vegan is because, we've been convinced that that's the way to go, and it's not people's fault. That's why I did it. And it's a compelling argument. It sounds really, really good until you actually really learn the truth of this stuff and you go through your own personal experience and learn to embrace animal foods. Now, that being said, if someone is dead set on it, I think vegan comes from a good place. There's a good intention, a good heart behind it. And I have a protocol, I call it How to Be a Smart Vegan. And I coach vegans through how to be good vegans, avoiding the absolute things we need to avoid, making sure that you're getting the right fats and the precursors for different anti-inflammation things. You have to supplement if you're going to be a vegan, but there's a smart way to do it for sure. So I hope that answers that question. The next one would be, what do you think about plant-based meat like Beyond Meat? Well, now knowing what you know about ingredients, when you look at the ingredients of Beyond Meat, it's horrific. It's industrial fake meat. I don't know why anyone would want to consume it. It's high in all the things that we're trying to avoid, and the industrial inputs that go into making Beyond Meat. If being vegan, you're trying to be vegan because it's ethical and for the environment, then Beyond Meat is in the opposite direction of that. It's horrific. It really is. There's better ways to be a smart vegan. There's better ways to get your protein and things like that. And I don't know why, if I'm a vegan, when I was vegan, I didn't want to eat a fake meat. Just like as an omnivore, I'm not going to eat fake plants. I'm just going to eat plants. If I want meat, I'm going to eat meat. If I want plants, I'm going to eat plants. I'm not going to try to fake it. So I don't know that I would sell your stock, because I think the stock's going to do really well unless you want to believe in the stock that you own. Should you eat more meat or fish? This was asked by Carrie. So that's a great question. I think a balance is great. Again, the first thing that we have to do is just move from the wrong stuff to trying to do the better stuff, okay? So if that means that I'm eating nothing but steak and eggs and bacon and ground beef and I don't get any fish in, I'm still going to do really good with my health, all right? Because I'm moving towards something real food. Now, once you get comfortable in the realm of real food, then you can start to branch out and try to get balance and have some shellfish once a week and some salmon once a week. So, and that's kind of where a lot of us veterans are at. We started out just doing what we liked. We just did a lot of, whatever it is that we like, and then we're like, okay, well, we need to start incorporating some of this other stuff. So, I don't think either one is better or worse. I just think that having balance over time is a good thing. Okay. And then Howard asks, won't wild caught animals create a sustainability problem? Not if we do it the right way. So there's some really good books out there on sustainability, rotational farming, replenishing the sea. It's commercial fishing that is destroying that, and without an awareness of what we need to do to replenish it. But the reality is that we need to do what we need to do for ourselves to make us healthy so that we can impact the world in the way that we want to impact the world. So I am not going to kill myself by not eating certain things because I think sacred cow is great, Stephanie. So for instance, let's say I'm a lion. A lion is an obligate carnivore. That's all they eat. Let's say as a lion, I grew a health conscience and I'm like, you know what? I feel really bad for these little bunnies and I'm not going to eat them anymore. I would kill myself. Okay. So what I'm saying is what we need to do is eat what we need to eat to make us feel amazing for our health, which is what I just went through now. Then educate yourself on the true facts and science behind all sides: vegan, agriculture, sustainability, rotational farming, animal foods. Like once you start to learn about all this stuff from an ancestral perspective, then you can start to make better choices as far as where you spend your money. Okay. Okay, wheat or white? I think both are worthless. I'm sorry, Carrie. It's like, we started with white bread, the Wonder Bread, fortified and all that stuff. And then we figured out, okay, this isn't so good for our health. And now we moved over to wheat. And wheat bread isn't any better because it's still bread. It's still wheat, right? I see the majority of people out here struggling with health and they're eating whole wheat, whole grain bread. I don't think it's healthy for us at all, unfortunately. Are avocados good sources of fat? Alex asks. Absolutely. Avocados are awesome. Avocados are high in monounsaturated fat, which the body can use for energy, and they're so great. So more than a handful of fruit is not recommended. Alex asked that. No, a fistful. All right. So this is a fistful. All right. So I'd say like a big apple most days, a big sweet potato, both of those together. Right. Something along those lines, right? You can do more than that because it's real food. It's going to be very forgiving, but we'd say as a general rule, about a fistful or 3/4 cup, maybe a cup of fruit per day. Okay. All right. And then Carrie asks, if you are only eating once a day, then when would you recommend your workout? Ooh, that's a really good question. I think the most important thing here is working out versus not working out. So you have to find in your day when the best time is that is conducive to your schedule. I usually have my clients map out a perfect day. Like if everything worked right, like what time would you get up? What time would you work out? What time would you meditate? What time would you have your food meals and stuff like that? Get a visual of where that can fit in somewhere. I would just make working out a priority and find where you can find it. I don't think there's an optimal time. I love working out first thing in the morning. Some people love working out in the evening, so it's just a very bio individual thing. Let's see, if you could only have 3 food takeaways you would recommend trying for the rest of the year, what would it be? Then I want to know if everyone in the seminar would join me in doing it. That was Carrie. Oh, that's a really good question. 3 food takeaways. Are you asking me? My 3 food takeaways? So I would say make a commitment to read labels and based on the information that we learned avoid the obvious stuff like wheat, corn, soy, and then the industrial seed oils like soy, corn, canola, safflower, and those things. Like that would be the best thing that you can do, because if it doesn't have those things, then it's probably pretty safe. Okay. I think another takeaway is just to start looking at food as this thing that's like building the body, and it's not just for fuel, and it's serving a purpose. The purpose is nutrients and the purpose is fat for energy. What would be the other thing? That you don't have to eat all the time. Don't force yourself to eat all the time. 2 or 3 meals in a day is perfect. That's all you got to do. If you're eating for nutrients and you're eating the right kind of stuff, animal foods, traditional fats, nutrient-dense vegetables, a little bit of starch, a little bit of fruit, you're not going to want to eat all the time because you're becoming nutritionally sufficient. You feel really, really good from it. All right. Do you think a balance of nature or Texas superfoods is a good way to get your nutrients? I'm not sure what that is, so I'd have to look that up. Balance of Nature or Texas Superfoods. I'm assuming that's like a greens powder or something like that. So I'll have to look into it. Do you think meat causes digestive issues? It can cause digestive issues for some people if you haven't eaten meat in a long time. So let's just say that supplements. Okay, yeah, I'll look into it. Thanks, Howard. So meat does not cause digestive issues. We're designed to eat meat, okay? But if I haven't eaten meat in a long time, I lose my capacity to digest meat. You know, if I've been a vegan for 15 years, which I got someone working with me right now, we're having to ease her into it because her body, since she's not eating meat, it doesn't require the inputs necessary to digest meat. So I don't think it causes it inherently, but we can lose our capacity to digest meat, which is an easy fix. You can flip that too. Now, some people do good on different types of meat, right? Some people do good on leaner meats, not because fat's bad, but because they just have a problem digesting fats. Sometimes they have some gallbladder issues, you know, so sometimes they just do better on leaner cuts of steak and leaner cuts of pork, right? Some people do really good on the fattier cuts. But inherently, I don't think meat causes digestive issues unless you already have digestive problems, and I can help you with that. There's a lot of things that we can do, okay? Cool. All right, we made it through all the questions. We got anything else? Anybody got anything else? That was an hour of power. A lot of stuff. I think that's everything, right? Boom, 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 boom. All right. Hey, this is from the heart, y'all. I want to help. I'm here to help and heal. Been there, done that with a lot of different things, and we continue to evolve. Would love to see you guys in the community trying that thing out. And again, get out of your own way. If I had to give a piece of advice, Carrie would ask, get out of your own way, because what happens is we come into everything with our own way of thinking about things, our own mentality and predispositions. So we come into things, and as soon as I say one thing, like it's like, oh, okay, I'm not going to listen to this, or I don't believe in this, or something like that. Get out of your own way. What we've laid out here today is a very logical, believable, doable argument for real food. And what we are told to do with nutrition and food is what manufacturers want you to believe, and there's other agendas behind it, because the reality is you cannot argue with evolutionary evidence and anatomy and physiology. We have to do what is best for our bodies. We have to do what is best for our personal health so that we can show up in this world and be better for this world and contribute to the causes that we care about. Okay? That's all I got. Thank you all so much.